people need to earn stuff about you. Make them earn it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to stop oversharing. So way number one, figure out why you do it. Is it because you want to become close with someone really, really quickly and you're kind of trying to fast track your way to that closeness by getting super deep and personal early? Is it because you genuinely don't feel, and I'm looking down at some notes on my computer, by the way. Is it because you genuinely don't feel like it's a big deal, what you're sharing, but you see that other people kind of get uncomfortable when you share certain things? Number three, is it because you've had your vulnerabilities maybe used against you in the past? And so now you're kind of trying to just put it all out on the table. People know what they're getting into, and you want to see if people can handle you, you know, kind of that whole, oh, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best kind of thing. Or is it because you're uncomfortable setting boundaries with people, and so either you're easily bullied into sharing things that you don't want to share or that you're uncomfortable sharing, or even if you're not being bullied or pressured or anything, you just do not feel that you have the right to set boundaries with people. When people have trouble oversharing, it tends to be one of those four reasons, and I feel confident saying that because I've overshared before for all of those reasons at different points in time. So there's no shame, judgment-free zone. Number two, after you figured out why, ask yourself, what has this person done to earn your trust? I don't feel like we ask that enough with people. I feel like a lot of us are kind of careless about the information that we share, and we don't really vet the people properly. I remember a couple years ago, I was in therapy. And we got onto the subject, me and my therapist, about friendship and how to tell when you can trust somebody. My therapist asked me, how do you determine when it is safe to trust somebody? And I kind of had to think about it for a minute because I didn't really vet people like that. I kind of just felt out if the vibe was right, if I was comfortable talking about the subject, whatever. After I was done explaining to her my, trusting process, she was like, okay, I'm asking you that because I'm wondering how you protect yourself. My mind was blown, guys. I was just like, oh my God, I never had thought about it that way when it came to telling people stuff. But yeah, that's what it is. When you're oversharing, what you're doing is you're not protecting yourself from people, because not everyone moves the same. And if you don't know them, you don't know how they move. So if it's somebody that you've just met and don't know all that well, you need to wait for them to prove themselves to you. You need to wait for them to show you that they deserve to know you in a personal and deep kind of way, because not everybody does. People need to earn stuff about you, and they need to earn that by proving themselves to be able to be a good friend or whatever, and to be able to hold that space for you. That kind of intimate, deep friendship where you bear all and tell you all about your childhood trauma and all that has to take time, and there's no getting around that. And if you try to rush that process and expose yourself and overshare, you could be putting yourself in a really, really vulnerable position. You don't know what people would do. And a way to kind of see and vet whether a person is trustworthy, watch how this person moves with you and with other people. Like, for example, do they tell you other people's business? And have they shown you in the past that they're trustworthy? Like, it's funny, I didn't used to think about this at the time, but back in college, I had this friend who, she would not hesitate to be telling me other people's business. Like, I'm telling you, she has friends where I know their childhood traumas. And these friends of hers are people that I've never even met. So if she's talking about her friends like this, and mind you, these are friends she's had for years, then how is she talking about me? And I didn't think about that at the time. But how people move with people is how people move with people. So you need to watch out for stuff like this. Step number 3 of how to stop oversharing: make a list of things that you don't feel comfortable talking about and things that you do feel comfortable talking about. Sometimes, and this goes back to the boundaries thing I mentioned, sometimes the reason why we overshare is because we haven't clearly defined where our boundaries are with what we are willing to share. Sometimes the reason we have trouble maintaining our boundaries is because we don't actually know what our boundaries are. We've never sat down and thought about them. So take some time to think about it. Hell, even get out like your journal or whatever and write it down on paper. Like, I am not comfortable sharing this story. I am more than comfortable talking about this topic as long as we exclude XYZ details. write out a list of rules for yourself. Number 4, think of some phrases ahead of time that you will use if someone tries to push your boundaries. This goes back to the boundaries thing again about oversharing. You have the right at any time to refuse to discuss something with somebody. You do not owe people your personal story. You do not owe people your personal business. I said it before in this video and I'll say it again. People need to earn stuff about you. Make them earn it. If you don't feel comfortable telling them, that means at least part of you feels they have not earned it. So you have every right to keep quiet. One phrase you could say is, I don't really feel comfortable sharing that, or I don't want to get into that. Or another thing you could do is you could tackle it head on by saying, I'm not going to go into detail about this, but and then share what you feel comfortable sharing so you can take control of the situation that way. Number 5, when you're thinking about whether you want to share something or not, or you're not sure whether you should share something, just mentally think to yourself, I might share that later. So what this is going to do is, number 1, it's going to stop you in the moment from, blindly making a move that you're uncomfortable with. And number 2, it's going to allow you to think about, do you trust them? Is it the right time or place? And stuff like that. You're not saying no, you're just saying not now. Speaking of right time or place, this is especially for those of you who tend to share and make other people uncomfortable. You got to think about, how is it going to impact the other person, what I'm sharing? Or is this going to help the person in any way? Sometimes you might be blindly sharing things, and by blindly I mean you might not think it's a big deal. You might even think it's funny in a weird way. Like some of us make jokes about the traumatic things we've been through to the point where we're desensitized to it. Some of us are desensitized to the things we've been through. Meanwhile, other people are not. And you have to be considerate at the end of the day about what you're sharing for multiple reasons. You don't know what people have gone through, and you could be triggering some sensitivities for them after they've already had a tough day. Or it could kind of be a downer that you're bringing that up. Or you could be putting the person in a position where maybe they feel like they have to comfort you, or they don't really know what to say, or don't have the mental bandwidth to have such a heavy conversation right now, even if you don't necessarily think it's heavy. So this is something you kind of just got to read the room with it at the end of the day. And those are my tips on how to stop oversharing. Please let me know in the comments, have you ever overshared? If you feel comfortable, tell me a time that you've overshared and it maybe didn't go well. Let me know all of that, and if you like this video, share it with your friends, and and consider subscribing to my channel, because I do a lot of videos like this. Hi guys.